Right, so it's loud enough, finally. Now let me introduce Valery Litvin from Cyber Congress. So yes, you're proficient about the terminology right now. Cyber search, well, you've heard about that. So I don't know how you want to introduce yourself, so I'd be best off giving you the floor. So hey guys, I'm pleased to see all of you here today. Let me introduce myself, although I believe that many people around know me. My name is Valery, last name Litvin. So I won't be talking about the past, where we worked, where we used to work before. So as Dima has told, we have Cyber Congress, which is a brand new story. I just wanted to share the focus of a long-term project called Cyber Search. And indeed, I'm very pleased, I'm very glad to be speaking here at this Cyber Palace on this wonderful premises. So it's a great thing. In last fall I spent weeks here, even months. Now I have a place to go to after work and to come back. So before we start, I'd like to make a small remark, a small comment. There's a very interesting story. One of the first developers of ours, Mr. Babenia, who was the very first Cyber Search team member. There was an interesting story that happened to him. So all of us went to Thailand. So we recently got back, but well, all of us, but except for him. He stayed there. He chose to stay. So it's a great day today. It's his birthday. So I believe it's a great thing if he can actually be seeing us. So please, a round of applause to him, and let's congratulate him on happy birthday. Tony, if you can hear us, happy birthday to you. No, he's not back from Thailand. Right, so let me start. So we've been talking about Web3 quite a lot, so I won't talk about that today either, because me and Dima will dedicate a bunch of workshops, a bunch of reports on this topic, because it's an ongoing thing, it's an ongoing development. We'll keep mentioning it time and time again. I'll tell you about the Cyber Search project, how it is linked to Web3, how it's shaping Web3, and also how we see this web developing further. It's decentralized, it's trusted, and semantic. Three concepts, three pillars to Web3. A few words about the structure. So right now, dozens of thousands of developers, top representatives of the industry, top experts are engaged in developing brand new protocols for consensus mechanisms, for decentralized apps, various mechanisms that are being used in decentralized systems. So this is shaping the next web, the new web. And we are part of this process. We're developing part of the stack. We, as Cyber Search, are eliminating one huge issue. We're trying to centralized, nativized search. Same as in any other industry, there are complexities, difficulties, challenges slash missions, objectives. Part of the issues are hard problems that Vitaly Buterin at one of the conferences identified, the issues of immediately related to decentralized systems, which are performance, as in speed. It's a hard problem for these sort of systems: privacy of transactions, parallelism, economic finality in these decentralized systems, and also the pillar of this, decentralized and this decentralization and the cost thereof. Another bit, another portion of the problems that we dubbed soft problems, although they're far from being soft. We just categorized them as a standalone class of challenges and issues. So those are the issues that Dima outlined. Essentially, the objectives of search, the search in a brand new class of systems, infrastructure issues, maintenance, deployment, running those systems, interaction with those systems. Quite a lot has been, quite a long way that we've taken from first instruments, from first tools, from first wallets. Wallets is a vivid example of interaction with the blockchain system. But still we're at the outset of this journey. Even those issues that we faced ultimately when we set up Cyber Congress operations, we faced the issues of interaction with our BTC, with a native Gnosis client. Quite a lot of time has passed. The cap of those systems is very big, very many good developers, but the tools with nice performance, with decent, understandable, intuitive interface are still lacking. The next mission is accounting. Accounting as in settlement, the understanding of the investment means that you can operate for the time being or at the time. And another important task is analytics. Analytics for a brand new class of systems, for a huge number of various transactions that are happening in those systems. And these are the objectives we have focused. We are focused on them currently, and we are trying to resolve them with 7 sub-projects that shape our domestic in-house ecosystem called Cyber Search. So I'll proceed to elaborate about the first 4 today. And I'll briefly mention the 5th chain gear in Cyber and CyberJS, 6 and 7 chain gear. So chain gear's story is very interesting. When guys were putting CyberFund together, they realized that it is necessary to shape some kind of roster that would contain a ledger about decentralized projects, decentralized systems, a list or a roster. So they have put in a huge number of tokens of blockchain systems, blockchain-based systems. This was all Hyperfund, part of the Hyperfund resource. And we went retrospective about how to enhance that, how to enhance the interaction with that roster, how to bring the incentives, how to embed them into that system. We ended up understanding that we would like that registry to be smart contract based, SC based. And we started wondering. So we have a registry for blockchain systems, we have one for a roster for tokens, for crowd sales, for projects. So that's a bunch of registers, bunch of ledgers already. Also, we decided that there must be, well, inside our browser, so 2 dozens of rosters. We've started, we tried to implement another roster to become an umbrella roster for all those rosters I've mentioned, Chain Gear project. This is the project that helps you create your own ledger with your own structure, and register it in the chain gear under the same name, under a common name. Chain gear would be the single entry point, the unified entry point that will contain metadata about the ledgers of you, of yours, the ledgers of other users who decided to create one. Most importantly, the establishment of your registry creates ERC-71 token, and this entitles you to administer that ledger or raster. You can sell it, you can transfer it, thereby transferring the ledger management right to another person. So yes, to anyone. It's also important that these rosters can be funded if a user supports an initiative on accounting of anything. We can fund your raster or ledger. Various policies can be implemented for adding entries to this ledger. It could be just you, it could be somebody else, could be whitelisted entities. So that's all based on 71 token. Every entry can be funded. So we've resolved that issue. Now we're at the stage of initial release. There was an internal release. The request pool has been created, a pulled request that has already been reviewed by a part of the team. And I believe that we're almost about to deploy these contracts and to make them available for public testing, including for cross-audit, third-party cross-audit. Cyb, what used to be dubbed Cyber Browser, we just abbreviated to Cyb, CYB. This is the web browser, which is an entry point to the brand new internet. Same as Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Opera, the gateway, the entry point to internet for you right now. So this Cyb browser can help you serve the transactions, use decentralized technologies, and integrate blockchain tech. Cyb.js is what's under the hood in this project. This is an SDK that is going to help you work, develop the applications and use this kit, development kit it's a library that you can use in your projects. Now this is the point where the interface where we collect various interesting sub-projects that you can use in yours. A few words about points number 1, 2, and 3, and 4. This is a very interesting comment, something that Nadia said, something that Dima also mentioned. We are going completely, fully open source. So MIT license. We want to switch to an even more liberal license. Do anything that you can, anything you can imagine. And talking about search, what we do is indexing, search, and infrastructure to make it happen, to make transactions happen. Indexing and search. Tech stack that we're using, JVM, has accumulated the expertise, a 2-decade-long expertise of top industry representatives. We use Kotlin, particularly for development purposes. Kafka, Alessandra. Alessandra is Elasticsearch and Cassandra. Docker for registration and for the deployment of all those services that we have developed. So let me start with the core. This is a cyber search project in the GitHub. It's dubbed cyber search. The objectives behind it were the indexing of transactions and protocols in absolutely any blockchain system. And in the future, not just blockchain systems, but also DAGs. Currently, we have developed a service that indexes the systems, protocols, Bitcoin, Ethereum. It also helps index, parse blocks, contracts, transactions. We switch everyone to a more solid terminology. It's not addresses, it's contracts. It's a more reasonable. Balances and mempool. Yes, it's also part of the picture. So, making a summary, small summary here. Cyber search is a combination of pump and dump services. It's a combination of the two. So, you can pump and dump all the nodes and blocks from your blockchain and to dump it into whatever database that you desire. Transaction indexing and parsing of protocols. We use with UTXO, now other parsers are possible. We work with Ethereum, we don't work with smart contracts. ERC20, we're not yet considering them, but we're close to them because yes, we're bumping the sectors from all transactions. Again, what's under the hood, I won't talk too much about this, won't dwell on this too much, but I'll mention that in principle, if we make sufficient number of parallels, it's an event-driven paradigm. Everything is event-based or event-driven. If there is an event that is happening in the blockchain system, there are services that are processing the slow events. Can be a parser of UTXO, could be balance calculation. So the most reasonable, the most convenient for us would be Kafka, distributed message broker. Principle of operation is shown in a very clear and concise picture, the chart on this slide. There is a number of producers that generate the flow of messages, and there is a Kafka cluster where those messages are accumulated per topic, and there are services that subscribe to events that arrive into those topics, and they are somehow transformed, and new topics are being generated and uploaded. This is a schematic that shows the architecture of cyber search itself. We have nodes, blockchain systems, or clusters of nodes depending on the kind of load or the kind of performance throughput that we want for transactions. There is a pump service that I've mentioned that can be used to pump all the transactions on all the blocks, transforms them into, puts them into Kafka. Then we have dump capacity, which dumps it into a certain data structure that you've described yourself, or you can use something that we've put together. Alessandra, it's Elasticsearch, full text search, or Cassandra for object queries. They can be written up for various databases. If you want to use your own analytics database, you just need to open a few interfaces, and you'll be able to dump all the necessary info for analysis into the database. Kafka can feature a whole number of analytical services that will allow you to somehow convert or transform or aggregate data for additional iterations of analytics. Not everybody would understand this, although there's not too much code on the slide here. It's maybe an appeal to developers who are thinking about these services, specifically about implementing of this service. They're all taking the same path, and the tool for indexing needs to be written up. With our cyber search project, it's also very simple. Same as the implementation of interface that is written here. So pump and dump can get you some limited functionality, and you can then use this functionality in a system that will help you work the indexed system, the blockchain system. What were the priorities at hand? Well, definitely it's indexing of Ethereum and Bitcoin mempools. EOS and Cosmos are the heterogeneous systems that we want to integrate next. Parsing protocols, parsing SCs, Ethereum-based, ERC20, 23, non-fungible ERC71. And as I mentioned, those analytical services are the parsers that anybody can write up, integrate, and run analytics for that or another token. Or run analytics for a smart contract, depending on the current need. So we've been talking about transactions that are happening in a decentralized manner. Blockchain system. But also, besides this data from blockchain system, we want the data from cryptocurrency markets. Centralized, decentralized. In decentralized, this is the transaction that I was mentioning when I mentioned cyber search. It's a standalone project right now, which is focused on parsing transactions that are happening for cryptocurrencies. So we've also come a long way, a fairly long way, because it turned out to be a daunting, challenging task. There's a whole number of exchange platforms. Many of them have very decent liquidity. It's very hard to, which makes them hard to ignore. And there are challenges, there are complexities around all of those exchange platforms. They were chaotic in their emergence. They emerged chaotically. Crypto exchanges did not prioritize the principles for API development, fairly decent API. Streaming services were not a priority for simplifying queries, for easier queries for data, for events or trade transactions that were happening. They were not particularly hell-bent on that. A number of exchanges have already learned on the mistakes of the past. In cyber markets, we decided to parse all the threads that are happening in crypto markets, because only by collecting data and by running analytics on that data, this is how we can understand what exactly is happening in those markets. Because many of you, well, you go to CoinMarketCap every morning, maybe not so often, but this is not the kind of data that you should trust. And the community has burned time and time again by trusting that data. You can only trust the data that you've collected, the data for which you have done the right math. Cyber market is the tool for for the collection of data from centralized, decentralized exchanges. It's a convenient API to access those databases, order book connectivity, connectivity to the most liquid exchanges, and the ability to do the math for the price the way you want, in a clear and desirable way. So what were the ultimate focuses? Well, we wrote up the connectors for centralized exchanges, but we also took a decision initially to focus on decentralized exchanges. We see that the amount of liquidity there is growing. It's not exactly a milestone, that there's some new development, it's the evolution of things. It's how crypto will be traded on those decentralized exchanges. Working with traders, working or calculating tickers using various methodologies, convenient APIs, streamer, order books, the ability for you to compile an order book, which will give you a very good picture of what's happening in the market. The internal architecture is similar due to the same paradigm in mind, the cyber searching. So we have exchanges, we have connectors. There's Kafka that accumulates this stream of event, flow event, like tickers calculated according to that or another methodology. And there are databases where we offload that, save that. Our priorities are integration with the most liquid decentralized exchanges. Currently, the number of transactions and turnover at 0x is growing. It's new exchanges are emerging as we speak. More calculation methods to be supported for prices, better exchange paths. The data that we collect must be made available to all the people desiring this access, granting public access to them. Next, I wish to switch to the aspect that combines all of the above. It's CyberNode project. CyberNode is the same gateway, same entry point for all the projects that I've mentioned, for all our developments. It's a software development kit that helps you take the developments, take the products that we've created and use them and augment them with the services that you want. Could be used as a backend for your decentralized app that would want scaling, among other things. And that's also infrastructure level that helps you fairly easy in CyberNode cluster. You'll be able to deploy services in other containers for analytical purposes, for transaction processing purposes from your decentralized app, or for example, the way we construct it for decentralized system to account transactions. What are the priorities? Same as any other tool, it must feature decent, understandable, clear interface. Some monitoring tools, that's exactly where we've made very good headway recently. A lot of services, when too many services are up and running, so you don't know exactly what's happening with it. Some of them are working, some of them have failed. It's very difficult to navigate and to make use, to use that system. Alerting, that's clear. Definitely it's IPFS integration, including from the viewpoint of indexing. And that principle, whose concept was designed by Dima, it's a change continuous integration. What we mean by that is that we want to render support to blockchain decentralized applications before they hit production, starting from DisNet. Be that analytics, be that indexing, or deployment of infrastructure, all of that must be available and possible when that or another system is launched in production, is launched into the marketplace. Research objectives. HyperNode can be a safe vault for your crypto. It won't come as a secret to anyone that the peace of mind can only be achieved when your private keys are your private ones. So that keys should be stored in a secure place and used to sign transactions you want. HyperNode is a physical machine or a cloud, although it's not exactly a grid store concept. Be that Node Ethereum decentralized that store the keys that you use to sign transactions. They must be stored in a reliable manner. And yes, this will allow you to say that you have a vault that stores your keys, giving you a peace of mind. Next, hypernodes can be used as infrastructure, giving as a service to developers, making money on that. So I will stop on God mode, so I won't elaborate, but please approach us, and me and Dima will tell you about God mode and hypernode. The build and deploy capabilities are available on hypernode. This can be deployed locally or in the cloud. Right, so now I'd like to run a small demo how this monitoring of our cluster looks like. Gleb, I have a question. How many services are launched in our cloud right now? Right now? Well, over 20. Over 20 plus services have been launched that are linked to Bitcoin indexing, so we can check out the pump and dump pumping at this point, the last index blocks, remaining time to indexation. So the guys are working on this indexing machine. The speed is increasing, the pumping speed, pumping performance is increasing. You see the pumps per second, cache, how heated that cache is, cache size. Ethereum, the same dump. So you may have pumped certain transactions and you want to dump them, like through dumping. Now we see 5 million of blocks. And as soon as the system reaches real-time indexing, this is when indexing of mempool kicks in. Good question, whether exchanges are up and running now. Not really. They're not active. So we have some services in there which harvest a lot of data. We've harvested quite a lot of data from traders over the past months, from centralized and decentralized exchanges. When I mean decentralized, Ether Delta are supporting us, and something else. I started with its overall cluster load. This cloud service, Google Cloud Service, is used to host this zoo of services of ours. Plus we have documentation. When those docs emerged, I was very happy because it allowed us, not just us, to understand that we've made it happen, but also we understood, and all the people understood, how these developments of ours can be used for other projects, for deployment purposes, for preparing the architecture and deployment of other services, cyber search, indexing, including the description of mechanisms of how it works. To market all the necessary info, including CyberJS, browser, ChainGear, CyberD, something that I'm going to elaborate on further. Plus we have public APIs without any rate limits. In principle, we can use them. For search, there is documentation. Prior to using these tools, you'll be able to go and select the API that you're interested in, to run queries, to familiarize with this, to get yourself familiar with this API. Next bit, I wanted to thank the team that was behind all this. That's implementing of making our dreams come true, mine and Dima's. It's a great thing that now our dreams have become those guys, those brilliant guys' dreams. All those people are over here, so please a round of applause to them. Developers, engineers, and crypto anarchists. Yes, Cyber Congress, Dima has talked about this a lot conceptually. He talked about various main points, and I just wanted to say that we are advocates of open source code. We use GitHub for development, although Microsoft recently, well, yes, 20 million developers have been screwed. Well, we hope that it won't be painful. Well, yes, that's also ZenHub for project management, and we've discovered Gitcoin for us. This is indeed a fundamental tool. Gitcoin is a tool that allows you to turn any issues on GitHub into bounty. On smart contracts, and attach or say register the completion progress for this issue in DIO. There are some Gitcoins backed by Ethereum, not by USDT virtual ones, but with Ethereum backed. Ethereum or DAI can be used to pay for the services. We love Bitcoin, we love Gitcoin for this reason. Very interesting project has been started. Every team member has received bounties, some objectives with bounties. Quite a lot will appear, or is about to appear soon. So if you want to participate in the development, or if you want to get some issues resolved, please come to Gitcoin, you will be rewarded. Cyber Congress, there will be tasks, $5,000, $10,000, and $15,000 in equivalent task completion price. So those are the burning priorities that we put a price tag on, and we will be pleased. The community's involvement on that together with us. Some repositories, Hypernode, Cyber Search, Cyber Markets, repositories on GitHub. So I should have led with that, but it wouldn't be that clear ultimately why we're doing this. So we are making a decentralized search engine, a concept that was described by Dima in January, February last year. And now it's more than a rumor. We can openly talk about it because we've reached this point where the active phase of research has been reached. And also we're experimenting on understanding, comprehending the issues at hand and trying to solve them. Last week we even were able to gather at 3 a.m. at the bar because of that, because at 2 a.m. we launched the first network. We launched the first network. Cosmos, yes. a long way still to happen prior to production. A long way to be taken of 6 months, 12 months, 18 months prior to commissioning of the system. We decided to move in a peculiar way. So Dima also mentioned share drops of tokens. Yes, well, this is something that we intend to do. And then next we'll launch testnet and restarted testnet more and more. All the kinds of testnet where these tokens can be used. But most importantly, any of these testnets can be using the tokens put into it to earn even more tokens for knowledge entities, for linking and cross-linking those objects, ranking the objects within the system. All this can be turned into profit. So we decided that initial distribution will be switched from testnet, but we will not tell you at once which one. And now, in a nutshell, why we decided to tackle it. And what's so bad about Google? Well, yes, everything is bad about Google, as Dima says, but it's all summarized here in a concise and clear manner. Well, starting that Google is Web 2, which is about to be buried. There will be the advance of Web 3, brand new systems, brand new principles of systems operation, distributed systems, open systems primarily. As we know that Google is a huge, ginormous black box that even Google developers are not aware of how that mechanism of theirs operates right now in terms of ranking. It's public data, decentralization by every user of the system. It's clear, open economic initiatives. Every user is an owner of this major collection of knowledge. It's economic consensus through the development of the system, development of security in the system, and more fundamental reason. Web 2.0 was for people only. Web 3 would be for people and robots, and even more robots than people ultimately. The necessity to have a decentralized system where all the knowledge will be cross-linked, ranked against each other, it will help the robots, the artificial intelligence, make decisions, including the economically motivated decisions, because it will be nativized. By this slide, I wanted to elaborate on an interesting concept. Dima described it as a decentralized search engine. How I started seeing it, always a reverse side of the coin. This will be a next stage of evolution of decentralized autonomous organizations. It's the next generation of DAOs, which will be run by intelligence and mostly AI. So now's the time. Join our Telegram chat. We're all public people. You can get hold of us, talk to us. All the updates gonna be here on our Telegram channel as well. And a separate separate thank you, separate gratitude goes out to Nadia and other members of Cyber Academy for everything they've done, for everything that Nadia has pulled off. And all of this is going to transform into something big. It will reach certain success. Nativized decentralized protocol for events. It's a very innovative project that the Cyber Congress supports in every possible way. It will keep doing that. You can find my presentation on IPFS. So that will be it. We'll be happy to accept any contributions, contributors, potential team members. So if you share the values that we stand by, share the values by which we stand, if you have certain skills or competencies, or you plan to apply yourselves as developers of cutting-edge blockchain development, so please join our team. That will be it for me. I'll be welcoming your questions. Thank you very much. Thank you, Valera. Thank you on behalf of the Cyber Academy. Questions? Questions? Show of hands, the microphone. Comments, suggestions? Something like that? None? Yes, it takes a lot of time to digest. Right, look, you mentioned that you have API, and this API is usable. Can you tell more about that? What of that API can be used? What is usable? Yes, it's a good question, thank you. This API for the cluster and for the services that I mentioned. For cyber search. You can use our API for full text search for all blocks and transactions in Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, Ethereum Classic. Also, you can do object queries to request a specific object or a specific transaction. Can you repeat your question? What exactly is there in the index? What is searchable? Well, you mean the query, what you should query, or what will that query yield? All the information for a specific transaction, Bitcoin, Ethereum I've just mentioned, it can be queried and found. Okay, so if there is a transaction, there is a binary code. Yes. Have you been looking at it? Well, you're talking about the process. So internal transactions. So we're indexing that, but not yet searching. So this is usable. Well, unless you know API, it makes the search difficult. No, depends on what exactly you're looking for. Bytecode? Yes, you'll find bytecode. No, for example, I want to find by parameters. Yes, for that you need to know the API and the architecture, the Kafka service that I've mentioned. So you can write up your own parser for that or another protocol. And knowing specific smart contracts, you can navigate through all of them. You can check out all of them, how this can be worked further. So you'll be able to request a particular state in the network. Well, there is a lack of integration with a certain API capability. Well, maybe IPFS has this. How do I find this? Well, yes, and as I mentioned in the cyber market context, the data that we are aggregating, we want to save that in IPFS. Atomary transactions, blocks, all the queried items are saved into IPFS. So we have an object, we have a hash, we have the link to it, and it all goes to that decentralized search where those objects can be cross-linked. This can be a state of the contract, this can be the data, that or another block that exists there. It can be anything. So what do you process? What kind of data do you process in IPFS? Well, we don't index IPFS yet. Well, it's not that challenging a stunt to pull off. So it's just we approached this very recently. It's very simple compared to what we've done already. So IPFS search is just by file names. It's not very interesting. It would be interesting if it's a picture, trying to tag that picture, trying to know what's in that picture. Well, that's not exactly the IPFS search that you have and that we have. Whenever we mention search, we're talking about searching that is happening in a certain graph with hashes and with links between these hashes. The picture is in IPFS, and the graph has a hash of that picture and the link to another case. So, like you say, tagging it or trying to identify what's in the picture, if you put that tag into IPFS and you link it to that hash, then basically you'll parse the picture. Yes, we understood each other. I hope that the others were on board with this. Yeah, when they could hear it. Yes, so only this kind of comments can be obtained only in Minsk after a presentation. Okay, if there are no questions, a round of applause to Valera. Yes, thank you guys. Thank you for the presentation too. So we don't have any presentations planned next, but there's a lot of beers in the bar. So you get my hint. Let's run a small party. So let's get the music going without waiting too much in the previous break. So that's about it. Thank you very much. Goodbye out to our YouTube audience, and well, we'll continue here offline. Yeah. By the way, this is also a very important thing. We should have introduced the entire team that was working in the academy. Well, so far, this is the team that is responsible for offline. So you know us, you know our faces. This is me, this is Grisha, who met you. A round of applause. These are the people without whom nothing would have happened. That's Artyom over there. He's the hero of the night. His 4K cameras have been keeping up all night, and Yura was the one translating this or interpreting this into English. So thank you very much. Yana behind the bar, manning the bar. She's there. And Vlad, yes, the new guy. A round of applause to him as well. Right, so that's about it. Dima Starodubtsev and Valery Litvin, advisors to our project, also a round of applause to them. Right, thank you very much for making it here. Well, not chasing everybody else, so please feel free to hang out and chill. Thank you very much. Commencer out.